great CEOs know how to pull in the right resources. They're not afraid to ask for support and go after what they need to get the answers that they need. And there's a treasure trove of great resources online, both paid and free. So the answer is out there, my friend. You just have to tell yourself, I am resourceful. I'm Amy Porterfield, ex-corporate girl turned CEO of a multi-seven-figure business. But it wasn't all that long ago that I lacked the confidence, the budget, and the time to focus on growing my small but mighty business. Fast forward past many failed attempts and lessons learned, and you'll see the business I have today. One that changes lives and gives me more freedom than I ever thought possible. One that used to only exist as a daydream. I created the Online Marketing Made Easy podcast to give you simple, actionable, step-by-step strategies to help you do the same. If you're an ambitious entrepreneur or one in the making who's looking to create a business that makes an impact and a life you love, you're in the right place, friend. Let's get started. Hey there, welcome back to another episode of Online Marketing Made Easy. I'm your host, Amy Porterfield, and today I'm excited to tackle a subject that's truly transformational for any thriving business. And that's how to think like a CEO when challenges inevitably pop up. So not just how to think like a CEO, but when it's in the hardest of times. Because here's the truth, no matter how much you plan, no matter how much you look to the future, no matter how many times you have a plan B, starting and growing a business will always present its own unique set of obstacles. Whether it's a technical glitch that sidetracks your progress or outcomes that fall short of your expectations, these bumps in the road are just part of the journey. I'm 15 years in, my friend, and I struggle with my business. Not always, not daily, but there's always some kind of challenge, some kind of fire that I'm putting out on a regular basis. I could tell you, okay, we're dealing with this challenge here. This one's on the back burner. This one's kind of driving me crazy. Like it's just part of doing business. And I hate saying that because I want to just talk about the unicorns and rainbows of building a business, but it's not always the case, right? However, before I go on, it's all worth it. All the challenges I deal with, all the craziness, all the things that I wish would just go away, all of that, it's still worth it in terms of being my own boss, building my own business, making the kind of money and impact that I truly want to make. So if bumps in the road, challenges, obstacles are part of the game, they're never going to go away. Well, let's talk about how we can navigate them as the best leaders, the strongest CEOs, and just be proud of how we've dealt with the challenges that have come our way. Because it's funny, I was talking to Hobie recently, and I had a bad launch in 2001, and I hated how I showed up. I regret the kind of leader I was during that launch. I was going through a rough time. That was my year that depression was really taking over for me. I'm going to talk about that in an upcoming episode, specifically what I did about that depression. I actually might surprise you, but that's not what today's episode is about. But that was 2021 and I was negative. I wasn't rallying the team. People were like actually at my house during this launch and I would like go hide in my bedroom at times because I just didn't even want to face the fact that we were having a down launch. It was frustrating, challenging, and I just regret how I've shown up. However, I needed that moment to have the contrast in terms of, so the next time something doesn't go as planned, how do I want to show up? What kind of leader do I want to be? And I think knowing how hard that was and knowing I never want to go back to being like that, I'll always have challenges, but I can address them in such a better, more positive way. That like was the catalyst for me to say, okay, I need to be a better CEO, a better leader in times of challenge. And so that's why I wanted to talk about it today. So these moments of challenge, again, are your cue to roll up your sleeves and channel your inner problem solver, just like a seasoned detective would do. It's your opportunity. I didn't take that opportunity in 2021, but I've found many opportunities since that I could be proud of how I've shown up. And again, be that problem solver that I needed to be. So let's unravel some of these common challenges together. And by the end of this episode, you'll feel more empowered to tackle them like the amazing business owner that you are or are becoming. Now, before we get into it, I've got a favor to ask you. Do you have a friend who's an entrepreneur? Do you have a business bestie, someone that you love to kind of go through this journey with? And if you do, would you mind grabbing the link to this podcast or the link to this specific episode and texting them or slacking them or just sharing it with them in any which way? I'm on a mission. I've got a goal to reach as many entrepreneurs as possible, and I would really appreciate your support. Okay, so back to the episode. Before we tackle specific challenges, I want to share a little mindset framework with you. It's what I like to call the think like a CEO process. Thinking like a CEO is all about shifting your perspective, and it's easy as 1, 2, 3. So number 1, you've got to be resourceful. Whenever you're faced with a challenge, I want you to ask yourself, what resources do I have to figure out the answer? Now, it might be online courses, online tools, books, podcasts, maybe one of your friends, a peer, a relationship that you've built over time, but you have to be resourceful. I learned this from my Tony Robbins days, and Tony used to talk about how one of the most important characteristics of a great leader is someone who is resourceful. So I've always told myself, I am resourceful. I will always figure it out. I will always find a way. So remember, great CEOs know how to pull in the right resources. They're not afraid to ask for support and go after what they need to get the answers that they need. And there's a treasure trove of great resources online, both paid and free. So the answer is out there, my friend. You just have to tell yourself, I am resourceful. Next is being growth oriented. Instead of seeing setbacks as failures, which I have done way too often, flip the script and ask yourself, what does this make possible? I learned this one from my business coach, Michael Hyatt. I have come to him with many challenges, and he'll say, okay, I've got a question for you. And I always know it's coming, but I've got a question for you. What does this make possible? Even a failed launch will make something possible. You show up differently the next time. You do different strategies. You take more risks. You experiment with your launch next time. You pull in affiliates. You've never had affiliates. You do something different. DSD, do something different. You never usually DSD unless you have a challenge. It's kind of human nature. And so when things don't go right, you have to ask yourself, what does this make possible? And that's where that growth-oriented mindset comes in, because the word possible, that hints at something positive, right? Something good. So that's the growth there. Every hiccup is a chance to grow and innovate. So these so-called failures, they're just stepping stones. They're just stepping stones. And as long as you see them at that, what does this make possible? Changes everything. So growth oriented is such an important aspect of being a really strong CEO or business owner. And then lastly, let's talk about vision alignment. I want you to think, how does this situation align with my overall vision? Keeping your big picture vision in mind helps you prioritize what truly matters and make strategic decisions that align with your long-term goals. So each decision you make, especially during a tough time, should bring you closer to where you want to be. So if something happened, it's not working in your business, let's just take a failed launch. So what does this make possible? And then when you start making decisions and taking actions from that place, make sure those actions and decisions are aligned with your bigger vision. They're not desperate, grasping for straws kind of moves. Let me give you an example. When that launch wasn't going well, we always have a 12 pay option that we don't always use it, but we always have a 12 pay option in our back pocket. I don't like to do a 12 pay. I'd rather do a 3 pay or a 6 pay just to collect the revenue sooner. But when the launch wasn't going as planned, We were like desperate. I've just felt the desperate energy grasping for anything. And we decided to throw out the 12 pay way sooner than we normally do during a launch. We were just days in our launch. We felt desperate. It wasn't going as planned. We threw out the 12 pay. And I still regret that because it affects your revenue for that year. So if you have a revenue goal and you introduce a 12 pay that you weren't expecting to introduce, or you introduce it too early, now a lot of that money that you are going to get, you're going to get in the new year. It affects your bottom line in this year. And that's okay. You can make that decision in the moment. Just make sure you're not making it from a desperate place like I was, because I just don't think that was needed. I think there were other decisions we could have made in the moment. So it wasn't aligned with our bigger vision of hitting a revenue goal that year. And so that's why I just look back and think, ooh, we acted a little too fast. But again, back to this vision alignment, I promise you, by adopting this way of thinking, you'll tackle those obstacles with less desperate energy, more confidence and resilience, so that you can keep moving forward in the right direction. So again, we're going to go through it. So the first one, resourceful. Second one, growth oriented. Third one, vision alignment. I think these are really important mindset shifts that you have to make as a CEO/business owner. I don't call myself a CEO. I always call myself founder, but I've acted as a CEO in my business up until 2 years ago when I actually hired a real CEO. And so if you don't call yourself a CEO, I'm talking about the person running the business at the top, which is you. Okay, so surprise, that's you. All right, so let's talk about some challenges that we need to address, and we want to be proud of how we've shown up to tackle these challenges. So challenge number one, your lead magnet isn't working. So let's say you spent countless hours crafting what you believe to be the perfect freebie, but you've been met with disappointing results. The reality is it's just not resonating with your audience. So to channel your inner CEO, get in the trenches and talk to your audience. Engage with them on social media. Send out a quick survey or hop on a call with some of your key potential students. Figure out what they need, what they want, and where you might have missed the mark. You want to utilize tools like Instagram polls or Facebook groups to gather insights into what's truly capturing the interest of your audience, what they're struggling with, and what they need. And listen, the feedback you receive, it is gold. I don't think we do this enough. So use it to pivot, switch things up, tweak what you've done. Maybe you don't need to throw away the whole lead magnet, but you do need to figure out what's not working about it and make the tweaks or the changes. And the thing is, maybe your audience is looking for something more practical, or perhaps they want a more comprehensive solution to the problem, and you can build that out based on what you've already built. Like maybe, again, it's not like throwing the whole thing away. You've got to experiment. But remember, a really successful CEO doesn't throw in the towel at the first sign of trouble. That lead magnet's not working, you throw it away and you start from scratch. No, you've got to learn more before you do anything. You've got to listen to your audience. So get curious, stay open-minded, and adapt based on real-world feedback. That's what a strong CEO does, or at least they encourage their team to do so. You don't have to do all this work if you have a small team. They could be helping you do this. So a really strong CEO is willing to do it themselves or encourage their team to dig deeper, be relentless in your pursuit of what is going to resonate with your audience. I've had plenty of lead magnets that haven't worked. In fact, I've had so many that I have a podcast about this. It's called How to Troubleshoot a Lead Magnet That's Not Converting. And you can check it out at amyporterfield.com/437. So it's episode 437. So amyporterfield.com/437. Okay, challenge number two that you're going to face. You're having technical issues with your email service provider. Maybe you're stumped by trying to automate your email sequences or create opt-in forms and funnels, and you're not techie and you keep telling yourself you're not techie, so it's just not working. So this is a sticking point for many because let's face it, not all of us, including me, are natural born tech wizards. I'm actually terrible at the tech and it frustrates me pretty quickly. But here's how a really successful CEO handles it. They grab the bull by the horns and they reach out to the platform's support team. How hard is that? So when it's not working, just know that a lot of tools today, their support teams are incredible. Their support how-to videos are incredible. So you can literally reach out to the tech support and say, look, this isn't working. Here's why it's not working. What do I do? But just asking for help is a sign of strength, in my opinion. And remember that the internet is your friend, and there are YouTube tutorials and tons of help online for free. You can also dive into online forums or tech specific Facebook groups. And I'll be honest, sometimes the best solutions come from peers who've already tackled the same issue. So you can bet I'm texting a friend like, my email service provider is not working. Here's what's happening. Have you ever had this issue? What do you suggest I do? I reach out to my friends all the time. I recently had a webinar reg page that was not converting nearly as good as last year. And so you can bet that I reached out to two of my peers and I said, what would you do if your reg page went from 40% conversion to 15% conversion overnight? Like, I can't figure this out. And I'm not too proud to say that. I am an online marketing expert, and sometimes I am stumped. And so if I can reach out about marketing issues, my friend, you can too. So if you are having tech issues, then it's time to ask for help, get the help you need. I've had major tech issues in the past with an email service provider, and I finally made the decision to switch. It just wasn't going to do what I needed it to do. The customer support at the time was terrible, and so I needed a different solution, and I got one. So sometimes the best decision is to move forward with a better fit. My favorite is Kit, formerly known as ConvertKit. So I haven't changed this yet. So it's amyporterfield.com/ConvertKit. That is my favorite email service provider. If I were starting over, that's what I would use. Highly recommend it. They actually have a free option to get started, but if you want more of the bells and whistles, which many of you will, it's really inexpensive. So again, amyporterfield.com/ConvertKit. If you're looking to switch or start from scratch, that's the resource I recommend. All right. Number 3 is the fear of not making any money with your offer. So you have a digital course, you're afraid that no one's going to buy. You have this product idea, you don't even get started because you think, what if this doesn't work? So this one's really common, and it's okay because we're all human, right? We've all been there. But a really successful, strong CEO doesn't let fear dictate their actions. They let the research do the talking. I've said this before on the podcast, but one of my favorite things that my friend Jasmine Starr does is when I go to her and I complain about something not working, she always goes to the data. What is the data showing us? Let's take the emotion out. The emotion, like, I can't figure it out. I'm not good enough to make this pivot and see the results that I want. Like, I sometimes just make it personal. She's like, let's take all of that out. And what is the data telling us? And so in this situation, when I say that you've got to do your research, that's the data. So start by exploring the market landscape. Who are your competitors? Who are the big players? What are they doing? What kind of success do you think they're seeing? It's hard to tell if they don't share that. But also, what gaps can you identify that your course or your product could fill? How are you going to show up different? And you don't need to be dramatically different, but all of us have like something unique about us in our teaching style and our experiences that we're bringing to the table. So conducting this kind of analysis helps solidify your unique value proposition, and it clarifies your course or your product standing. And the good news is that you can always test your idea out before launching it. I used to teach, let's say, a digital course. I used to teach people, create your digital course and then sell it. I do not do that anymore. Digital Course Academy, that is not what people are learning. We're going to pre-sell that course before we ever launch. So if you pre-sell it, you say, okay, I just want 10 people to sign up for this offer before I create it. Absolutely a smart CEO move. I love that. It minimizes the risks, but it also gives you invaluable insight. Let's say you can't sell 10. Great. Go back to the drawing board. We didn't waste a bunch of time creating it. Let's figure out where we missed the mark. Let's go back in. and you never, ever, ever take a validation that didn't hit your goal as a failure, you are so lucky that the data gave you that information so you come back stronger. We've got to look at things this way, my friend. My good friend, Jill Staton, she taught me this thing. I call it CCC, which is catch, cancel, correct. And it's all about my mindset. When I go down like negative down, catch, cancel, correct. And so in this case, let's say you pre-sell your course and only 3 people buy and your goal was 10. Your thought is, this is a terrible idea. I'm not meant to be a course creator. I have no good ideas, and I just made a fool of myself. I just failed. Catch the thought, because none of those thoughts are going to serve you. Catch the thought. The next thing is you're going to cancel it. I always say I'm unavailable for cutting myself down in that way. I'm unavailable for that. I'm no longer participating in making myself feel small or inadequate. I'm unavailable for that. So that's me canceling it out. And then I correct it with a thought that's going to serve me. So with that, I'll say, I always figure it out. I am incredibly resourceful. I am the kind of woman who always figures it out. So with that, if that just simple thought, a new thought to correct the old thought, gives me that encouragement, let's go back to the drawing board. Like, I always figure it out, and this is going to be no exception. Let's go. So I love this idea of catch, canceling, and correcting. Got to give all the credit to my friend, Jill Staton. You can find her on Instagram at I am Jill Staton. She shares a lot of these mindset shifts. Okay, so we're going to pre-sell. If it goes well, great. If it doesn't, we're going to be really careful about what we make that mean. And we're going to get back into the game. Remember, almost every great success comes from a series of iterations, improvements, and likely things didn't work out and you had to course correct. And that's how you got to where you are today. So we've got to view each of these tweaks that we need to make, not as failures, but as data. Take the emotion out of it. Okay, so my friend, we've reached the end, and I want to leave you with some encouraging words that I hope will stick with you. I want you to always to remember that entrepreneurship is filled with a lot of unexpected turns, but these are precisely where your biggest growth is going to happen. I am a better person. I'm a better leader. I'm a better marketer. I'm a better friend. I'm a better wife based on my experiences, including all the failures that I've had in my business. My business has shaped me to who I am, and I'm really proud of who I am, but it includes all the missteps that I've made. You've got to think of every obstacle as a new chance to learn, to pivot, to excel. Really, if you like a challenge, just show what you're made of. A challenge, look at it and be like, oh, that's cute. Let me show this challenge what I'm made of. So whether it's improving your lead magnet or mastering the tech or refining your course, all of it, you can overcome these challenges if you have the right mindset. I promise you that. All right, my friend, thank you so much for tuning into this shorty episode with me. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you next week, same time, same place. Bye for now.